All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible forces that are guiding your decisions every single day. We're talking about the hidden scripts that run your life, often without you even knowing it. So let's dive right in. So let me just start by asking you a question. When you make a choice, anything from what you're going to have for lunch to a major life decision, are you really in the driver's seat? Or is something else kind of pulling the strings? I mean, think about it for a second. We've all been there, right? You splurge on that new phone or those expensive shoes, and then you spend the next week convincing yourself and maybe your partner all the super logical reasons why it was an absolutely essential purchase. So, what's really going on there? Well, that little mental dance you do, it's got a name. And it's part of a whole system of secret shortcuts that your brain developed for one simple reason: to keep you alive. It's called a cognitive bias. Now, I know the phrase error in thinking sounds a little harsh, but it's not really about being flawed. It's about being efficient. Just imagine you're one of our early ancestors. You hear a rustle in the bushes. You don't have time to sit there and analyze every possibility. You need a shortcut, a heuristic, that says, rustling might equal predator, so run. Those shortcuts saved us. They let us make snap judgments to survive in a really dangerous world. And that right there is the heart of the issue. On the one hand, the promise of these shortcuts is that they are fast, they're intuitive, and they save a ton of mental energy. But here's the problem. That exact same mental software that helped our ancestors decide friend or foe, well, we're now using it to decide on a mortgage or to scroll through our newsfeed. And in our complex, modern world, those ancient shortcuts can lead to some pretty major errors in judgment. Okay, so let's put one of the biggest, most common culprits under the microscope. This is one you're going to start seeing everywhere once you know what to look for. Let's talk about confirmation bias. To put it simply, our brains just do not like to be wrong. It feels bad. So, confirmation bias is basically our brain acting like a biased lawyer for our own opinions. We go out and actively hunt for evidence that proves we're right, and we conveniently ignore or downplay or just plain forget anything that suggests we might be wrong. And we all know this feeling, don't we? You're in an argument, you're scrolling online, and you find that one article, that one statistic that perfectly backs up your point, and you get that rush of validation. That little, aha, see, I knew it. That feeling, that's your confirmation bias giving you a little pat on the back. It just feels good to be right. And what's wild is just how much this shapes our world. Your social media feed is basically designed to be an echo chamber, where the algorithms just keep showing you more and more of what you already agree with. We do it to ourselves when we only get our news from one or two sources that share our worldview. And on a way more personal level, it's the reason someone might ignore huge red flags in a new relationship, because they're just focused on all the good things that confirm their first impression. But our brain doesn't just filter information to prove us right. Nope. It can also get completely stuck on the very first thing it hears. So let's talk about the power of a first impression. Not for people, but for information. This is the anchoring bias. So with this one, the very first piece of information you get, what we call the anchor, has this huge, outsized influence on everything you think after that. Your brain latches onto that first number, that first fact, and it has a really, really hard time adjusting away from it. And man, this is the classic example. This is pretty much the oldest trick in the retail playbook. That original price is the anchor. Is that jacket actually worth $200? Who knows? But by anchoring you to that high number, suddenly the sale price of $100 looks like an incredible bargain you just can't pass up. You see it everywhere, especially in high-stakes situations. A car salesperson always starts with a high sticker price to anchor your expectations for the negotiation. When you're interviewing for a job, that first salary figure that gets mentioned, whether it's by you or by them, sets the entire framework for the rest of the conversation. Even charity websites do this with those suggested donation amounts, anchoring you to give just a little bit more than you might have otherwise. Okay, so it's pretty clear our brains are running on some, let's say, outdated software. But this isn't about feeling bad about our flaws. It's about finally getting the user manual for our own minds. Because once you understand the glitches, you can start to work with them. And this is the most important thing to remember. You can't just flip a switch and turn these biases off. They are hardwired into us. The goal isn't to become some perfectly rational robot. It's simply to recognize these shortcuts as they're happening. Just that awareness, that little moment of recognition, is honestly the most powerful first step you can possibly take. So how do we actually do that? Here's a super simple, actionable game plan. First, just pause and breathe.
This sounds small, but it's critical. It interrupts your brain's automatic, knee-jerk reaction and gives your slower, more logical mind a chance to catch up. Second, question your assumptions. Ask yourself, what am I just taking for granted here? What if the complete opposite were true? This actively pushes back against the cozy comfort of your existing beliefs. And third, consider the opposite. This is the ultimate weapon against confirmation bias. Don't just look for evidence that you're right, you have to actively search for the strongest arguments against your own position. I know, it feels uncomfortable, but it is the fastest way to get a much clearer, more accurate picture of reality.
So I'll just leave you with this thought. Now that you know about these hidden scripts running in the background, now that you can maybe spot the anchor or feel the pull of confirmation, what's one decision in your life, big or small, that you're going to look at with fresh eyes?